Hello, my name is Lewis and welcome to Gathering the Magic. In today's video we're looking at the top 10 best mono green commanders in MTG. Yes, it's everyone's favourite big stompy colour and you bet there are some big creatures coming up.
Single line!
Lewis, subscribe to Gathering the Magic.
Yeah!
Yes, please do smash that like button and subscribe to the channel and show some love to this little MTG YouTuber. As always, this list has been compiled from people over on Reddit and Facebook and not my awful opinions. Now, without any further ado, let's get right into the video. Just making the list at number 10 we have Ayula, Queen Among Bears. And of course with Ayula we're going bear tribal. There are so many bears from past MTG sets, some that give you extra mana, some that give you card draw, plenty of those normal 2-2 bears that don't really do anything. And of course we have the king of bears, Goreclaw, who did just miss out on the top 10 space himself. Of course, if you're wanting to give yourself even more options, add some changelings in there, because as they count as every creature type, they will all trigger Ayula when they ETB. As you'll be running primarily bears, make sure to have cards like Icon of Ancestry and Vanquisher's Banner. Use every chance you can to strengthen up those bears and beef up your board state. And obviously, channel your inner Graham from last year's Game Nights episode. Get in those cards like Bear Umbra and Forebear's Blade, because you have to include everything with the word bear in, right? If you're coming up against this deck, don't mess with the bears. In as the 9th best mono green commander we have a Shire, Soul of the Wild. From Zendikar Rising, this legendary elemental is already a firm favourite amongst MTG players. We've mentioned it on previous videos, but you've of course got the Shire Timber Protector combo. Timber makes your creatures indestructible as a Shire makes all non-token creatures forests. Then you've got cards like Hope Tender and Argothian Elder to untap everything and give you a cycle of potentially endless mana. If you're wanting to create a deck and just stick to newer cards, then go for Ancient Green Warden and Scoot Swarm. Have Green Warden trigger Scoot Swarm going off twice, plus with plenty of land options like Fabled Passage and Evolving Wilds that already trigger Scoot twice thanks to sacking them, you'll have the widest army in all the lands before you know it. If you are going landfall with a Shire, make sure you have those staples like Sakura Tribe Elder and Azusa Lost But Seeking. Get that ability to play extra lands every turn and those creatures that you can sack to get even more land. And to anyone who suggests mutating creatures like Auspicious Starix and Migratory Greathorn onto Scoot Swarm, you are pure evil. For the 8th best mono green commander we have Multani, Yavimaya's avatar. And yes, it's another land loving elemental. With Multani, you want to ramp, because the more land you have, the stronger Big Daddy Groot gets.
You disgust everyone.
You can escape the turmoil of command attacks too, because you can use one of Multani's abilities to get it straight from your graveyard to your hand, and that is always a big plus in Commander. Cards like Harrow and Springbloom Druid are a must. Sacrificing a land to get 2 lands is always a positive, but thanks to Multani, even those lands in the graveyard boost him up, so you're essentially tripling your value. And the iconic Gathering the Magic Card of the Deck award absolutely has to go to Scapeshift. Sacrifice all your lands, replace them with new lands, and boom, you've doubled Multani's power and toughness. Beef up Multani with equipment like Whisper Silk Cloak, Black Blade Reforged and Strata Scythe, and before you know it, Multani will single-handedly be knocking your opponents out one by one. A card I didn't know too much about before this list, but a card that I'm now already a big fan of. For the 7th best mono green commander we have Yisan, the Wanderer Bard. For every time you tap Yisan and add a verse counter, you then get to search for a creature equal to the number of verse counters on Yisan. That is huge. 1 verse counter on Yisan? Cheat out a Birds of Paradise or an Arbor Elf. 2 verse counters? Cheat out a Seeker of Skybreak or Elvish Visionary. And as you can see, one of the most common routes to go with Yisan is Elf Tribal. Getting out creatures like Kyrion Ranger and Wildwood Symbiote are essential. Give yourself extra opportunities to untap and use Yisan's ability multiple times a turn, assuming you have the mana available. A must-have card in yisan decks has to be Seedborn Muse. If you can keep him alive for one full rotation, then you'll be getting so much creature advantage it would be insane. Keep yisan alive with artifact staples like Swiftfoot Boots and Lightning Greaves, and really slow down your opponent's play with cards like Thorn of Amethyst and Spear of Resistance. Oh, and why not sneak in a copy of 1000-Year Elixir in your yisan deck? Then you won't have to wait one full turn before using his ability. Sneaky, sneaky, sneaky. Just missing out on the top half, the 6th best mono green commander is Omnath, Locus of Mana. Yes, what sort of a list would it be these days if Omnath didn't sneak his way in there? And this Omnath is so good. Playing mono green, he's obviously going to get strong quick, as you'll hopefully be filling that mana pool ASAP. Throw down copies of Llanowar Elves, Elvish Mystic and Llanowar Tribe to start getting that mana emptying options, and with green there really are so many at your disposal. Then go full evil and play cards like Nyxbloom Ancient, Zendikar Resurgent and Vorinclex. Double or triple that mana whenever you tap it, and soon enough Omnath will be massive. Again, get in the trusty green staple Seedborn Muse and you'll be able to do this on each of your opponent's turns. So many mana doubling options like Caged Sun, Mana Reflection and Vernal Bloom that will really make Omnath get out of hand super quick. Then with all that extra mana you can easily cast those big endgame beasts like Craterhoof Behemoth and Terrastodon super quick. Omnath, you scary. In as the 5th best mono green commander we have Ghalta, Primal Hunger. I said green is big and stompy, and Ghalta may be the biggest and the stompiest. An incredibly strong and versatile commander, there are so many ways to run a Ghalta deck, which shows why it might just be so popular. Ghalta costs X less to cast, where X is the total power of creatures you control. That is a crazy powerful ability. If you do manage to ramp your first 2 turns in commander, which is generally what you want to do anyway, you could potentially play a turn 3 Gigantosaurus or Nessian Boar, then next turn you'll be able to play Golter for just 2 green mana. If your opponents are still setting up their early turn plays, you could be killing one of them in the next 2 turns to commander damage. For Golter, you really want to be getting that power on the board. Again, you want to be ramping and playing those powerful creatures, and there are plenty of powerful cheap creatures too, like Wayward Sawtooth, Ronus and Yorvo, whose power and toughness are all bigger than the CMC of those spells, which is already big value when you've got Ghalta at the helm. Get plenty of cards like Ram Through and Prey Upon, and use big Ghalta to demolish the competition and potentially do some commander damage at the same time too. I think I want a Ghalta deck. For the 4th best commander we have Selvala, Heart of the Wilds. A legendary elf I myself packed in the 36 pack video I did a few months ago, and maybe it's a commander I should build around myself. Its first ability is good and can gain you favours at the command table, as it can positively affect other players with that drawing card option. Its second ability is where it becomes the danger.
I am the danger.
Tap a forest and tap Selvala to gain X mana, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. If you've got that Ghalta on the board, then you're gaining 12 mana, which for a cost of 1 forest is just insane. Again, as is the theme with green, you want to ramp and get out those big creatures. Get out those cheap but strong artifact creatures like Phyrexian Soulgorger and Lupine Prototype. Get out Nylea, Elder Gargi, or maybe even the horrific Phyrexian Dreadnought. Again, if you've got those options like Hyrax Tower Scout, then you've got the chance to use Selvala's ability more than once a turn and get out a stupid amount of mana. And finally, whack out that copy of Overwhelming Stampede and use those super strong creatures to trample all over your opponents on your path to victory. Taking the bronze medal spot, the 3rd best mono green commander is Azuri, Renegade Leader. As is common in these polls, the difference in vote for the final 3 had a huge leap, and you can see why with Azuri. A cheap to play elf with 2 huge abilities, and obviously with Azuri you go elf tribal. Whack down all those trusty elves to fortify your defences, increase your mana, and then when the time is right, Azuri can increase their attack and give them trample when you need to attack. These both aren't tapping abilities too, so you can use them multiple times a turn. Yes, if you needed to, you could regenerate all your elves if you had the mana. You've also got those trusty green elf-loving planeswalkers like Freyalise, Nissa and Vivian, who can help you generate even more mana and get even more elves onto the battlefield. Like I said before, there are literally dozens of different elf creatures within MTG, and with it being one of the strongest tribes going, I can see why Azuri is one of the most popular within mono green. Speaking of popular elves, The runner-up and second best mono green commander, we have Marwyn the Nurturer. Yes, who'd have thought it, another crazy good elf-loving commander. I won't harp on about her too much as strategy-wise and cards used are very similar to Azuri. Marwyn can grow super strong, super quick, as every time an elf hits the battlefield, she gets even stronger, and if that wasn't good enough, you can then tap her to add a number of forests equal to her power. And who said green was too rampy? For example, if you get out 6 elves early on, then Marwyn gets +6/+6 and can tap for a total of 7 mana. It's a crazy strong combination of abilities, which again, if you don't deal with quick, you could find yourself looking on from the sidelines as you crash out of that commander game first. The winner and the best mono green commander, we have Gargos, Vicious Watcher. I'm not surprised by this at all, as it's just an absolute monster that makes the already strong Hydra tribal theme even stronger. An 8/7 vigilant creature for 6 CMC is already bonkers, but it cheapens other Hydras by 4 and then fights another creature whenever any of your creatures are targeted by a spell. So if you wanted to kill some of your opponent's creatures without going to combat, target one of your own creatures with a Blossoming Defense or Vastwood Fortification, strengthen up your creatures, trigger Gargos, and then watch the table burn. Of course, with that Hydra ability, you're cheapening the cost of several Hydras, which I'll just whack up on screen now. With Hydras, they already tend to be overly powerful, so this cheapening ability is really going to tip the scales heavily in your favour once Gargos hits the field. Stack your deck with ways to protect Gargos, like Heroic Intervention and Withstand Death, and soon you'll be unstoppable. Finally, play cards like Solidarity of Heroes and Doubling Season, and soon that Hydra army will not only win the game, it will take over the world. There we have it, that is the list. Thank you for watching, and please make sure you do hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for all things Magic the Gathering. Check us out on our other socials. We have just hit 1.4 thousand followers on our Instagram page, which is just huge. For now though, I'm all tapped out, so I'll see you in the next video.